So guys, welcome to this Facebook Live on why I changed from 5-string bass to 4-string bass. So let's just put the camera on the stand. We were going to wait for a few people to join us on the call. I've emailed everybody, put some notices out, so hopefully there'll be some fun and games happening here in just a little while as we all connect up. So let's just put the camera on the stand. This is kind of old school, kind of. We're just going for it basically, and no high production values, just straight Facebook Live, straight to the iPhone, talking to you guys, seeing what's going to happen. Right, so we are talking today about why I changed from the 5-string bass to the 4-string bass. For those of you that don't know, this here has been my weapon of choice now, probably just trying to think about it, probably 4 to 5 years now, since this Sadowski came into my life, and it's a really great bass. And there's been a bit of a journey to it that I wanted to talk about, really why I did it. Most people, I think, are on a journey round the other way, from going from 4-string bass to 5s or 6s and trying to make the decision kind of that way. But I've sort of been there, come back the other side, and I just want to tell you some of what I learnt on the way, which is cool. So hopefully we're going to let a few more people join the call. We've got a few on already. Please do say hello and comment on the side. I would love to have you guys asking me questions, and it just makes it very cool when you guys interact and ask me stuff here. So let's get going. So why did I change from 5-string to 4-string? I've been thinking about this in quite a bit of depth actually over the past 24 hours, because yesterday was the London bass show, which was very cool. Lots of basses. I'm sure you can imagine what 200 basses, or probably more than that, all sounded like playing together in the same room. Yeah, it was pretty a lot of bottom edge, shall we say, but cool at the same time. Saw some great people, caught up with some people which I hadn't seen in ages, because you don't tend to get two bass players on the same gig. But it got me thinking why I made this change from 5-string bass to 4-string bass, because it's one of the questions I've been asked so many times why I've done it, and I don't think I've probably given the best answer as yet, and I think I probably got a bit clearer on what that answer is by watching one of the masterclasses at the bass show yesterday. So let's talk through that. So why did I play 5 in the first place? That's probably a good place to start. Like everybody else, not quite like everybody else. In fact, I did my first did my first bits of learning on a 4-string bass, and then as soon as I started, I guess, becoming pretty proficient at it, it was something I was kind of into, and I was getting into the world of bass, and all I wanted was a 5-string. More strings the better. It was kind of where I was. This was 1994, 5, 6, sometime around then, and just wanted more strings basically, and I ended up settling on going for a 5-string bass, and probably from the age of 17, I would guess, actually maybe even younger. I played 5-string exclusively, and I think that finished when I was 31. I'm 36 now, so that was how long it was. And so I think why I got into the 5-string was because it was like that next step, having more strings and what have you, and I just got used to playing 5 strings at that point, and it would be part of what I did, and the basses I wanted to play, which was really cool. I was studying jazz when I was at music college, and that it worked for that. And then I left music college and went into the kind of the professional world here, and I fell into working on theatre shows and that kind of thing. And I was doing sort of depping on the West End, and pretty much 9 times out of 10, everything's written for a 5-string bass there. It is the standard bass that they will write for. Why that is, I'm still not 100% quite sure. I think it's probably, well, I know it's because the composers who write for that kind of thing like writing for that range. They like those low notes that's in there. But also, I think when they tend to transpose music a lot in the West End and make medleys out of things, and sort of they will hack around with the music so it works with what they're going on with the stage. So they might pull 2 or 3 tunes together and want them all in the same key, and so you're shifting stuff around. So lines which would have ordinarily been played probably in more usual keys can end up in very different keys in the world of musicals and musical theatre. Also, there's a lot of key changing going on. They love key changes, so you're shifting around. You're shifting the sort of, I guess, the breadth of key signatures you play in the world of theatre is vastly wider than you probably would do on your average pop and rock gig, etc., etc. So that was what happened, and so I played 5 throughout that whole period of my time. If I went through, I mean, first decent 5-string bass was a Yamaha Nathan East BBN5, or it's the Nathan East signature model anyway, from sometime in the 90s. That was a really cool bass. And Mike has just joined the call. Hello, mate. How are you? So that was the Nathan East. So I played that pretty much all through my time through college, which was cool. Then when I left college, I had my first really cool bass built. I had this thing called a Say bass, which was built by a luthier called Martin Peterson in the UK. He has a great shop called Gallery in there. He built me a Say bass, which was kind of a super modern kind of thing, which was really cool. But then I met the guys from Overwater, who I've had a relationship with ever since. And they made me a 5-string jazz bass, which, I played for years and years and years. Paul Rouse is saying, hello, we're talking about 5s. You're a 5-string man, aren't you, Paul? So I played that Overwater for years. In the process, I had a Lakeland 5-string that I've forgotten the model number, that was cool. That had a kind of a humbucker and single coil vibe going on there, which was cool. What else was there? What else? Ken Smith. That was cool. We'll talk about ultra modern again. And then I got the Sadowski, which is up in that rack over there, which I bought when I was out on a trip to LA in 2010, something like that. I didn't quite intend to come back with a bass, but this bass just kind of found its way there, and they gave me kind of a good price on it. But then I had, let's face it, a bit of a shock when the credit card transaction fee, what they charged me for using my credit card out there. So but that was cool, and so I played that loads, and I really loved the sound of that. And I couldn't find a decent 4-string at that particular moment in time, and I'd owned a bunch of 4-strings at that time. Two notable ones is I had a Lakeland. I was kind of big into Lakelands for a period. The Darryl Jones, that was a cool bass, but I never kind of quite took to it. And then I wanted a P bass, and the Bob Glorb? I never know how to pronounce that. Which was their sort of standard P bass. I souped that up a bit and had some fun with that. Put some active electronics in, one of John East circuits, a D extender, that sort of thing. And they were all good basses, but I just never quite felt at home. But I always wanted to try and get a Sadowski. I was loving the sound of the 5-string, and I was like, could I get that? Will it sound the same? And so I tried one when I was back out in LA again. I nearly came home with it. I didn't that time. I can't remember why I didn't. I just probably thought enough's enough. But about, I don't know, 6 months later, I gave in and ordered one. And believe it or not, I had that much confidence in Sadowski that I ordered this online, and it turned up, and it's never been set up. It's still the same setup as I used then. I probably shouldn't admit that, but that is that's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, they're just so rock solid. They work great. But about something else happened about that period of time when this bass turned up is I started running a production company doing live music, and I was still playing loads, and the band Metropolis that some of you guys will have seen, that started taking over what I was doing, and I was moving out of that theatre world, that period of my playing life, and sort of moving kind of into doing my own thing. So I was getting less called by composers and people who wanted very specific things, and because it was my own band and I was just freelancing in bands doing that kind of thing, I just had more carte blanche to do what I wanted with the bass that I wanted, and so it was like, and I just started really getting into the 4-string thing, but also the other thing that happened was I picked this bass up and I just loved it. Everything felt right. It behaved right, and it was really comfortable. The weight was really good. And it just had that thing which kind of spoke to me, and it stayed there ever since. The weird thing is, having been at the bass show yesterday and probably been in a room for the nicest bassists I've ever been in, it's funny what people go for, and how everybody has different tastes in these things, and they're all looking for that slightly different thing. And George I'm looking on the side because the Facebook Live Messenger is coming up at a weird angle. George has got the Yamaha BBGS5, and yeah, anything Yamaha is great. So just I put that out on the record. Yamaha basses, rock solid, right from beginner all the way up to the real stuff that John Patitucci plays, etc., etc. So hold on, where was I? And who else is commenting? Martin has said, thank you, James, for sharing your experiences and learnings, and thanks also for your platforms like this to share it with us all. Yeah, my pleasure. I'm loving sharing this stuff with you, and I'm also loving getting a neck problem here. I need to become a bit more of a Facebook Live ninja, probably, but if you guys like this stuff, I will do more of it. So, yeah, where was I? This bass started speaking to me, and at that point I was doing the gigs that I wanted to do. I was the boss, kind of my playing, and I found a bass that I really liked. Obviously there was a little bit of a transition period of going back to 5-string, of going back to 4-string, but it happened really quick, and that was literally the end of my 4-string kind of days. No, my 5-string days rather. And I've had a bunch of them. I still do play them every now and again if there's a theatre thing that needs it. It's not a problem. I will take it out every now and again. It's not. I don't have a phobia of playing them, but I always that thing which makes you come home to a certain thing, a certain instrument, that whatever that phenomena is, kind of started happening with this bass here, and so that kind of was the journey. And what made me start thinking about this is I do love the Sadowski. I think it's a great bass, but like anything, I do have my ears and eyes open for the next bass which is coming along. What that's going to be, I haven't found it yet, but I've always had a great relationship with the guys from Overwater, and I saw Chris May, who's the head honcho, the luthier there, and I was talking to him yesterday is if they could make me a copy of this bass here, but with a few tweaks going on, shall we say. And the main tweak I'm kind of looking for is I'm just looking for it to be something a little bit mellower, warmer in the mid-range, because I like it, it's quite aggressive in the mid, so I'm just looking for something which is a little bit older school, warmer, and because obviously when you buy a stock bass off the shelf, you kind of get no none of the subtleties you get with buying a custom-made bass, where winding a pickups at certain directions will make certain differences, or you might want to swap out circuits, or whatever it might be. Those custom options are cool. So what I'm hoping to do is get Chris to make me a copy of this, and the questions I was asking him is, how closely could you copy this bass? And he was like, yeah, we can profile necks and do some really, really cool stuff he was telling me about. So that's the sort of thing that I'm kind of planning. It will be a long term. This won't be going for a while, but it's a sort of a long term project. I don't know what their waiting lists are these days. I mean, you're probably, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, something like that. I don't know. So that will be coming along, because I want to sort of rekindle the relationship with Overwater, because they are a great company, amazing technical support just generally. They really look after their players, and it's old school the way that they behave and do business, and so I can't talk highly enough of them. So it's that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to go back to them, and now I sort of know what I want, and I know that it's this kind of idea, this sort of weight, and I know the sound that I want, and that was one of them. So having that conversation with Chris was really cool. But there was a more subtle reason that came out of one of the masterclasses, which was there. They had a guy called Shez Raja on there, who I've known the name for absolutely years. I've actually never seen him play up until yesterday or whenever it was. He has a band, and loads of my friends muso friends have played in it. And it's this kind of what is it? It's a fusion kind of thing. So think of John McLaughlin Mahavishnu Orchestra, that sort of thing, electric violin, quite out there doing that kind of thing. And so he's very into the artistic side of how you create that sort of music, the freedom involved in it. And so he did his masterclass, was about something like 5 creativity hacks, something along those lines. But one of them really stood out to me, and I hadn't quite thought of it in this light until I was sort of driving home in the car and thinking and just reflecting on it afterwards. And he had this idea of learning by limitation, which is an idea that I've taught my students loads and loads over the years. When I'm teaching to improvise, there are kind of 2 ways, and he talked about it. The first way is to just sort of go free your mind, play anything, which for some people is really, really hard, particularly if they're sort of regimented, kind of structured sort of character, that thing of just letting anything happen, because we sort of live within the confines of society and that kind of thing, and a lot of people aren't used to thinking in that way. So there's that on one side, which is a whole art in itself, having played some free-form music when I was at music college, that kind of thing, which was literally pretty much anything you wanted, which is a bit of an acquired taste, I think, through to this idea of learning by limitation. And this is where you will limit yourself to say 2 notes to improvise on. And what you do is, when you limit your possibilities, you start to really sort of milk every little subtlety that's within there, and you really start to learn what's going on there. And so that was what that, and how that kind of relates back to the bass, is that one of the things I wanted to do was slightly limit myself, because when you've got 5 strings, you've got lots of possibilities, and that's kind of really cool in itself. It opens up your options. However, the bass being a pattern-orientated instrument, and I've often said this, that the bass is a blessing and a curse being a pattern-orientated instrument. When we work with these patterns, it's great because we can get started really super quick, and I can get people playing grooves probably in the first lesson or 2, and they're often staggered by how much they can achieve that quickly. but these patterns and shapes we can move around the neck, which means we can kind of improve very quickly. But there can often be a ceiling to these things where you actually need to know some theory, or you need to know the other side of it, shall we say, and you'll just hit a point where you can go no further, and that's where you need to start exploring all these all the subtleties of it, and that's when I wanted to go back to the 4-string. So there were effectively less options there, and so I was kind of getting more out of the bass. It was forcing me to work a little bit harder because I didn't have all those strings, all those other patterns that I could draw on. So it meant you were having to shift up and down a little bit more, change your hand positions a lot, and that was something that I really, really liked, was being limited down into four strings again, and it started forcing me to think quite differently to how I did as a 5-string bass guitarist. So that was one of them. But I also started thinking about the players that I love, and the 3 notable players that I absolutely are my biggest influences are James Jamerson, Motown bass player, and someone's told me I'm on my side. Okay, that would explain, because I didn't have this side-on problem. It automatically reverses you, so you look left-handed as well, which is really weird to look back on. So 3 players I loved: James Jamerson, Rocco Prestia, Tower Power, and the legendary Pino Palladino. I love those guys, all 4-string players, and obviously I extend a little bit into the Jacko thing too, although I'm not a huge soloist. And they were all 4-string players. There's one notable exception which I will say I absolutely love and is a massive influence, and that's Anthony Jackson, who pretty much basically invented the 6-string bass, the contrabass bass guitar idea. But that's kind of one notable exception. But all the guys that I love, going through to like Sean Hurley and that kind of thing, who's with John Mayer, that sort of thing, they're all kind of old school Fender players. And George has just said perfect, brilliant. I now know to get myself the right way around on Facebook Live. So that was one of the reasons. So getting that limitation idea was probably one of the reasons why I went back. There seemed like there was a certain degree. It was slightly harder, but it was also simpler at the same time. So I often get asked this question of, what instrument should I start on? And that's a tough question. Really, 4-string fretted is where I think most people should start their journeys on. But if a 5-string falls into your lap and it's the first bass that you kind of get hold of, it's not gonna. It really isn't going to be the end of the world, shall we say? If you have to start learning all your stuff on there. However, what I'd say is I always sort of take this sort of analogy back when I to this is my girlfriend is big into horses. She's a pretty competent show jumper. She's got her own horse, and she bought a horse which was particularly good for show jumping. That's what it excels at. It's an absolute nightmare in every other respect. It can't be with other horses. She can't hack out and take it on the road for a gentle trot. It does one thing really well. However, when she started sort of her journey off, any horsey type person will start off on a pony, which is pretty simple to operate or ride, I guess. And that's where you start, and you then start sort of zooming into your own discipline, being a racing horse or doing dressage or show jumping, whatever it might be. The same, I think, happens with the bass. Start off with a 4-string fretted, and then if you want to go down the fretless route because you're into that thing, or 6, 7, saw an 8-string there yesterday, the bass show, nuts. if you want to go down that route, that's totally cool. I don't see a problem. One thing I will genuinely say is that music is music. The core fundamentals remain the same. Like the core fundamentals of horse riding, whether you're a show jump or a top jockey, racehorse jockey or whatever, are basically the same. Okay, but the subtleties change across the disciplines. That's for absolute certain in there. So you really wouldn't want to your first sort of horse that you buy to be a racing horse, because it's going to be very difficult to control. And the same goes with bass. And I remember having had a student years ago. He's actually now a very top bass player in the UK, doing some great work. The first bass he ever turned up to a lesson with me was, I kid you not, a 6-string fretless. I mean, I looked at that as a professional player at the time, sort of, and got vertigo. So it's sort of like, and I had to strip it back, and the first thing I did was strip it back to a 4-string, and that was when he started motoring and making progress, because he kind of stripped out all the other stuff and got back into the fundamentals. Because playing a bass groove on a 4-string, it's like, is where you should be. And if you're doing any of the courses, like in my Bass Lab Plus, anything like that, it's like they all work brilliant on the 4-string. You can translate the stuff into 5-string territory. It will work just as well, but that is your home territory. So I urge players not to get too caught up in the 5 and 6-string business. Just nail things right from the word go on a 4-string, and then when you kind of get more experienced, you can break out there. However, if your 5-string is your first ever bass that you come across, I wouldn't let it get in the way. I'm going to just read some comments here from J.O. I'm just going into... It's fading out. Sorry if I haven't pronounced that right. First of all, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to learn from your experiences. I really appreciate it. I'm struggling with the second finger on my right hand when playing the bass and get tired. And there's some Seymour. I don't dare touch it, actually, I'm sure. Paul from Spain, who... Paul... I gig on my 5-string, which I find very ergonomic, but I've just acquired an MIM 4-string jazz, which certainly changes how I think and sounds I can get. Yeah, totally. If you're a guy, which is, I know you play a lot of rock and roll, so you're doing and if you're around that 5th fret area the whole time, okay, it's going to be a big change. Say if you have to then play, I'm on a 4-string here, but and then have to change everything down to an E. And so your hand is, you're going to be shifting around a lot more. And that was something that really suited the way that I guess the way I thought, because I'm a double bass player as well, and so I was always really comfortable in those lower positions, because that's like where the double bass home territory is. You can sort of map a double bass out almost in some respects like this, and then going up the G string, or a lot of guys, and myself included, play it like that. Obviously the top virtuoso guys who can really take up the dusty end or up the top end, really across the whole thing. So yeah, it will pull in a lot of different possibilities. So yeah, that is the reason kind of why I changed from 5-string to 4-string, and some of the reasons why I think it's good to start your journey on a 4-string. However, fundamentally, there's nothing snobby in me regarding this stuff. I just think it's like the nice, easy pony to start riding, and then as you want to start cantering and running, or trotting, running, or I'm getting my horse analogies all mixed up here. It's much easier to do so, basically. If you've sort of driven, it's the same kind of a learner will drive a 1 litre Nissan Micra or something, and kind of like my 3 litre BMW or whatever that I drive, which is now about 12 years old, is like, you don't want to give to a 17-year-old because they don't know how to handle the power. So it's the same. I think it's the same. I think with basses, that idea. I want to make kind of one thing really clear here, that there's no snobbery from my part, which basses you play. I'm kind of an old school Fendery kind of guy. That's what I do. The players I like do that thing, and that's where I sit. However, if you're into tapping and kind of Alan Caron or whatever you might be, Tom Kennedy, and those guys which fly around, or Matthew Garrison with the top C, and all those sort of characters, I genuinely think that's really, really cool, because that's your thing. And I had to find my thing, which took quite a while, of what it was, what that I enjoyed. And really, I'm kind of a sort of a commercial musician, session-y type character at heart, and playing bass and pinning down that bottom end, that groove kind of element is what I do. Yeah, I can solo, I can improvise. I learnt to do all of that kind of stuff, so I don't freak out if someone says, yeah, take a solo or anything like that. But if it's a case where you're going to have to be flying around a lot, and they're going to want highly acrobatic, soloistic kind of stuff, then probably I'm not the right guy for the gig. But there's plenty of space for different bass players doing different things, and I'm going to bring something different to a gig to the next guy. And that's something I strongly believe about all of you guys too, is everybody, yourselves included, will bring something slightly different to the equation. So guys, if you've got any questions you want to ask me, I'm going to wrap things up fairly soon, having spent 10 minutes, I think, on my side, as you're looking at me from the wrong angle. Strange enough, on the phone it looked absolutely fine. I was just reading the messages around the wrong way. There we go. So, as I said, expect a new axe probably sometime in the next, on my part, in the next 6, 7, 8 months, something along those lines. But I'm going to keep on grooving with this one probably for quite a long time, because it really does do what I want very well, and anything that comes out the Sadowski world is absolutely brilliant. I'm going to do some 5-string. I'm going to do a 5-string lesson too. I'm going to actually film it probably tomorrow, on actually playing the 5-string and talking about the patterns and some of the cool stuff that you can do with the 5-string, and how if I do play a 5-string, how I choose to use it, because I don't especially spend a lot of time grooving on that 5th string. I tend to use it for for effects more than anything. Mike Ipasala from Bass Guitar Rocks, we've been doing the masterclasses together. Bets on which one arrives first, the bass or the baby. I think if I want my social situation to stay intact at home, and is probably the baby has to come first. Yeah, that's the one. What's Nick said here? I play a 4-string strung like a 5-string. I don't use the high. Sorry, I play a 4-string. Oh, so you're doing a low B E A. Yeah, B E A D. Okay, cool, Nick. I've never played. I'm going to be straight. I've never played that. How are you playing a particular type of music which does that? Are you playing really heavy stuff? Be really interesting to be really tight faster. I want to know. Yeah, tell us why you do that. Totally alternate tunings. Yeah, he's or a drop A setup. So I presume you're playing pretty heavy music here. So which is totally cool. So I'm all for alternate tunings. You'll see on the back of this bass here, I have the D extender there, which I love. So I love that kind of floppy, flapping. Okay, I used to cover on the show We Will Rock You, the Queen one in the West End here, and I think it was Fat Bottom Girls was a tune down to the D, and so you could. It was that thing, and it just has a totally different flavour having that floppy string flapping around. It just felt all a bit tight and clinical. It's hard to explain on a 5-string because I did a few shows using the 5 there. But as soon as I kind of got the D extender on there, it totally opened up those lines. I had to learn the hell out of them, because when you're in a high pressure situation like that, it's nothing kind of like getting a bit freaked out, a bit nervous, and all your frets have moved and that kind of thing. So yeah, but yeah, I often flip it down and have some fun with it, and it makes playing like function standards like when he's like Superstition or something, when you can sit down on that bottom E flat. But obviously all your octave shapes start to change. So actually I hope that hasn't locked off properly. That's why the octaves sounded I need to sort that out. Some of the mechanics are need a little bit of work there. So a Queen lesson. What song do you want to hear, Paul? Tell me. If you just getting myself back in tune after playing some very out of tune octaves to you there. Sometimes the lever system on these D extenders catches. So yeah, tell me what Queen song would you want me to do, and what's the guarantee it's another one bites the dust, which incidentally is a great which was inspired by Bernard Edwards from Chic. So yeah, that's cool. I'm going to wrap this up now. So the 5-string lesson will be coming soon where we'll talk about that. So I'm going to be talking about some of the slight technical differences. You know the repertoire better than me. Yeah, I know 20 of the songs very well and nothing else. I say that kind of jokingly. But the cool thing about the Queen show is they put, like, musical theatre has these sort of little ditties in there. Like underscore they call it, or bits and pieces, but they use like bits of like the more proggy kind of out there stuff that Queen did, like Death on Two Legs and places like that. It was quite cleverly done, like that. So yeah. So we'll be talking about the differences, like the physical differences, some of the problems that you might have going to 5-string, because obviously there is a bit of, it can screw your head up a little bit, shifting over to the world of 5, and you need to do that fairly carefully. Otherwise, you can be playing a 4th out if you're not careful. Sort of finding difference in string spacing, weighting, that sort of thing. And yeah, there are a few slight technical differences there that you can start bringing in floating thumb technique, which is pretty cool actually, which is becoming more and more popular these days. So I'm going to wrap things up today. So that was the reason I changed from 5-string to 4-string in a nutshell, and I hope that's cleared up why that change came about, because I know it's a little sometimes a bit counterintuitive going the other way. But yeah, if you've got any more questions, I'm going to be on here for about another 30 seconds, and then we're gonna wrap it up there, and then I'm going to go on holiday on Wednesday for a week, and do nothing is the honest answer, because it's been a mad few months with the new website and all that but a very, very cool one. So having all the Bass Lab members, Bass Lab Plus members, and the Bass Lab, Bass Lab Facebook group is up to 1,380 members. We took on 30 today. It's great. It's been a crazy day. So it's doing today. Bill's just said, sorry I missed it today, buddy. Yeah, this will be going round and round in circle. You'll see this one. Bob Fairtrust just told me I'm not allowed to take a holiday. So I still want to come and play basketball with your team at church, Bob. I think that's slightly different church upbringing to I, because I sang in the church choir. If you want to have a bit of a laugh, there's some amusing pictures about that, which actually was a pretty good musical grounding, shall we say, but it's very different to the the amount of music that goes on in church in America. What a great place to learn to play contemporary music. I mean, because nothing. Growing up in a Church of England church, as we had here, which is very traditional, there was nothing, not a hint of rock and roll there, which was what I wanted when I was 13 years old. So, admittedly, there are churches which do that kind of thing, but it's just not as commonplace as what goes on in America. So I think you guys are incredibly lucky, the amount of music and the amount of opportunities you have to play and get rocking and try out the stuff that you learn kind of in the Bass Lab Plus and see how it works. I mean, I know Bob's taken stuff like the 2-note transfer and actually got it working, and is like his bandmates have been saying, that's like the missing link, which is really cool. So yeah, Bill Allen has said, have a great vacation, my friend. Thank you. I might call it a vacation rather than a holiday instead. We tend to say holiday here, but I think, I might call it a vacation for the week. That's very cool. So yeah, let's wrap it up there. Thank you very much, guys. If you've got any questions, comment below here on this video, and I will answer them and whatever. Tell us what your experiences are, whether you're a 4-string or a 5-string player. Get some conversation going on, and there we go. Thank you, Mike, for saying have a great vacation too, and I will see you next time. Catch you later. Cheers. Bye bye.